on Blog Talk Radio. Be sure to follow Crave Wrestling on Twitter at Crave Wrestling and join the Facebook fan page Crave Wrestling.
Indeed, 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 ladies and gentlemen, this is the Pancakes and Power Slam show. We are here live and live in color, getting funky like a monkey, if you will, ladies and gentlemen. This is Chris Featherstone. Of course, follow us at Crave Wrestling and join the Facebook fan page Crave Wrestling. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump right into it. We've got some people loading into the YouTube live wrestling chat. This is a man of great character that over the past couple of years, man, I've talked to him plenty of times, including live at in New Orleans at WrestleMania. Just a great guy, man. It's one of those things that I've worked in the professional wrestling business as a journalist for quite some time now, probably 7 or 8 years, and I've met hundreds of wrestlers, talked to hundreds of wrestlers. I've had over 100 wrestlers here on the show, and this person is certainly, without a doubt, one of my favorite people in the professional wrestling business. So I definitely thank him for availing his time. His third time on the show, the Pancakes and Power Slam show, number 3, ladies and gentlemen. Former IWGP Tag Team Champion, former GHC Tag Team Champion, just dominating the tag team scene in Japan. Ichiban #1, Suzuki Goon's own Lance Archer. How are you tonight, sir?
I'm good, man. How about yourself?
Doing fantastic as always, man. It's great to have you on the show tonight again.
Awesome, man. Appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. So you got an event coming up this weekend, don't you?
For sure do. Sorry, I'm eating some tuna fish.
No problem.
Last Revolution. It's going to be in Wichita, Kansas. Exactly. Pretty strong lineup. MVP, Kevin Nash is going to be there. Chavo Guerrero is going to be there. Jake Hagar, aka Jack Swagger, is going to be there. Lots of people.
Absolutely. So, do you do a lot of independent shows when you're away from Japan nowadays?
Yeah, definitely. I try to stay as busy as I can. Actually, Harry or Davey Boy Smith Jr. was in Texas this last weekend, and we did 3 different shows, a little Texas tour. We were with Texoma Pro in Texoma, Texas. On Friday night, we were with Lions Pride in Navasota, Texas. On Saturday night, we were with Anarchy Championship Wrestling in Austin on Sunday.
Wow.
So we did a small little tour, Texas Killer League squad style.
Wow, nice. KES, man. So you are in your early 40s now, man. I guess I'd ask you the question, how long do you think you have?
Well, first off, you don't have to tell people, man. They can be, that old kayfabe,
Oh, it's public, Lance. it's public. So it's Google said it first.
Yeah, Google said it, but then you mentioned it. That's the point.
Yeah, I reiterated. Yeah.
Luckily, I've been blessed with pretty dang good health. I've only had one major injury situation in my career, and that was almost 16 months ago. And it's one of those situations where I've gotten back to pretty much full strength, full power, and on full go, and
Yeah.
everything's kind of continued to go strong. The body's feeling good, mind's feeling good. It's one of those things, like if and when I feel like I'm dropping out of a high echelon of working in pro wrestling and whatnot, that maybe I'll consider retiring, or if the physical nature takes over and I just can't do it any longer like I've been doing it at the high quality that I like to believe I'm producing,
Yeah.
then, maybe I'll consider retiring. But as of right now, man, everything's kind of going full speed. So I'm happy, healthy, and ready to go.
Sounds good. Last time you were on the show, you were actually recovering from your back injury, and we've talked off air about back injuries because I actually had the same surgery that you had in 2013, and I had 3.5 weeks ago I had an even higher grade of surgery. Back then, you were endeavoring into an announcer, a color commentating career. Now, when the days are up for you to stop kicking people in the head in the ring, is that something that you'll be interested in?
I actually had a lot of fun doing it. You're talking about when I was working with Wrestle Circus
Yep.
mostly. And luckily, Wrestle Circus was kind enough to let me attempt to do that. And I actually had a really good time working with Rich there in Austin, Texas, doing the Wrestle Circus shows on Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
And it was definitely something I started to enjoy. And it was one of those things that, if opportunities present itself to do it on a more full-time basis and I could make a living at it, then I absolutely would consider doing something like that. I've talked to New Japan a couple times about the possibility of doing it on times when we're off, but as of right now, that hasn't happened. I'm hoping at some point in the future I'll get a chance to jump in on the English commentary and, show the world on a more worldwide scale what I can do as far as commentary.
Yeah, that would be
absolutely. When that time comes, I would actually enjoy it.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. Actually, thinking about it, that I think the English commentating team is fantastic. It's usually Kevin Kelly and Don Callis. I think that's fantastic. Don Callis is doing more transitioning into Impact, since he's one of the top executives there now in Impact. So perhaps Kevin Kelly may want a new dance partner in the near future, since Callis is doing more transitioning out. So maybe there's a spot that could open for you in the coming years. Like you said, right now you're busy kicking people's head off and giving choke slams to Doom. So I think right now you're all set in the ring, and for people to continue to fear you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the young boys or the young lions would be very happy if I went into commentary and got out the ring, because they're the ones that seem to incur the wrath of the choke slam.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so we got some questions in here. What's your Cavs or Celtics?
I don't watch the NBA.
There you go. Don't watch the NBA. Here's another question. Is there a possibility that you can come to the WWE and go to NXT?
You always say never in this business. If the situation was right, if the money was right, you never know what could happen. But as of right now, I'm very happy with New Japan. I'm not looking to go anywhere. I'm looking to just continue to move forward with New Japan and keep proving myself both as a tag team wrestler and hopefully some more as a singles competitor.
That's interesting, because that is a answer that actually makes so much more sense now than it ever has, because life outside of WWE is booming so much, and we're going to actually talk about this here later in the show about All In. Proof that selling 10,000 seats within less than a half hour is just proof that life outside of WWE is stronger than it ever has been nowadays. And people can make very, very good money, and outside of WWE, and even sometimes, a lot of times, depending on your, particular status, more than you made in the WWE, and it's really interesting. Pro wrestling nowadays is so interesting. Now, we can criticize it so much, and fans can criticize it so much, and I think it has its just due with it as far as criticism is concerned, within WWE specifically. But it's like there's so many people, yourself included, when you were Vance Archer, in ECW, then compared to now, it's like night and day to me. You know what I mean? Because I watched you then, I watched you now, and it's like someone who had a short push in ECW, but just kind of recalculated your career. And when you left ECW, I mean, in WWE, it's like the life of Japan and in the world of being in New Japan just kind of revives your career. And we've seen that with many people nowadays. It's funny because the Young Bucks were recently in an interview and they were asked about WWE. And of course, a typical answer is, and they mentioned this, typical answer is, of course, it would be cool to be in WWE. It would be that feeling that I was in the WWE. But at the same time, and I'm sure that you can attest to this as well, it's not necessary anymore, to be in the WWE because of because of organizations like New Japan booming so much, and even on top of that, New Japan booming and having more relationships with the California market in United States. Of course, we got a Cal Palace event coming up. We had Strong Style Evolved. We had the inaugural event before, back Independence Day last year, the two-day tournament for the U.S. Championship, the Kenny Omega one. So, New Japan's infiltrating, talk about an invasion like Suzuki-gun did, coming back to New Japan. New Japan's invading the States, and what are your thoughts on just, the expansion of New Japan coming to the United States market?
Yeah, it's a testament, like you said, to the growth of professional wrestling as a whole. Guys are able to make livings and really good livings outside of what the traditional, then the last, 20 years traditional format has been. And the only way to do that really was to be a part of WWE. I think it's changed a lot because the fan base has started to enjoy professional wrestling, not just from a WWE aspect, but they're seeing and looking for and enjoying wrestling from the independent level to shows like Ring of Honor,
yep.
PWG out in California. You've got Wrestle Circus in Austin, Texas. You've got all these high quality, high profile independent wrestling shows.
Yep.
You go to UK, the Japanese market, which has just gotten ridiculously good as far as New Japan's concerned. And New Japan, is looking to branch and become a worldwide product.
Mm-hmm.
No longer do they just want to be a Japanese product, because the company itself, and I think a lot of people don't even understand that, has been around for nearly 50 years.
Oh, yeah.
It was established in
1972. Yep.
It has existed. Yeah, and it has existed in Japan since 1972, and then just in the last couple of years started to really branch out and be seen by
mm-hmm.
the world. So their success in California, I think, is only going to continue to expand across the U.S. You see ROH, which has existed for 15 plus years, and their strength, their market and their product has gotten stronger than it's ever been, I
yep.
think, in the history of the company.
Yep.
And then you've got shows like All In, which are being produced by wrestlers themselves, being that the Young Bucks and Cody and Kenny and those guys have come together, and they're putting their money into this event, and it's exploded as it has. Like I said, a 10,000 seat arena sold out in under an hour. I mean, that's unprecedented as far as independent wrestling is concerned. And that's exactly what it is. It's an independent wrestling show.
Yep.
So the strength of professional wrestling has really grown, I think, because the fan base is starting to just have fun watching professional wrestling again. Yes, they can be very critical, and, rightfully so at different times, but they're starting to just have fun instead of just seeing things and saying negative things and just going blah and not doing anything about it. They're actually going out and finding wrestling they enjoy,
yep.
following it, supporting it, and it's helping the business grow as a whole. And it's really cool to see, but you can't take away what WWE is doing. Just the recent the TV deal they signed, $1 billion deal for
yeah.
5 years with Fox.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just insane, and the hope is that other television networks can maybe see like New Japan Pro Wrestling or ROH in the States or whatever the case may be, and say, you know what, we're going to invest our money in those products.
Yes.
They are doing well, and it's something different than WWE, and we are going to trust that it's going to grow as well. And that's the hope, is that that money can be spread around, not just to WWE, but to some of the other companies that are growing.
Yeah. I totally agree with that, 100%. And it would be very, very interesting to see that. To see, of course, Sinclair is doing a fantastic job with ROH, and there was an expansion there last year as well to cover more markets. as far as WGN and so forth is concerned. So, kudos to that. It would be really, really interesting to see, a big entity, NBC, Universal, or, Fox, or, one of the four to really invest, in a deal with ROH and really allow, the expansion to continue and really bring the competition of pro wrestling back. It's back in the day, back in the what is it? Monday Night Wars is what it was called. But yeah, back in the WCW, WWEF days, it was really gritty competition. You know what I mean? And with WWE, it's like WWE is a clear cut number one. You know what I mean? They've been that for 17 years, ever since WCW folded. Really, really a little bit of time before that too, because after the wars, WWE started winning consecutive weeks, and it was pretty much over with. But nowadays, I don't know if we'll ever see a WCW style competition come with WWE. However, with the expansion of New Japan, with Mark Cuban, being interested, Access TV and things like that, hey, Cuban, I think as far as net worth, I believe he's a few $1 billion more net worth than Vince McMahon is. So he has the money, he has the money to do it. And they're buying time to air New Japan matches now on Access. So there's interest there, to bring it back. So got a bunch of questions about your time with Impact Wrestling. So what was the Rock and Rave infection? Is that what it was? Rock and Rave infection. So got a bunch of people alluding to your days in Impact Wrestling. What's your overall thoughts as far as just yeah, I'm here. Are you there? Can you hear me, Lance?
I'm just agreeing with what you're saying. I'm waiting for the question.
Oh, I thought you said, "Are you there?" Okay, got you. Yeah, people saying I missed that Team Rock and Rave. What were your overall thoughts of just your time in TNA that you spent there? I know there was a lot of times it was with Jimmy Rave and Christy Hemme is when you became most popular in TNA at that time. Just what are your thoughts of just Impact Wrestling, and of course you working with Don Callis in New Japan as an English announcer, but he's doing most of his English work. I mean his American work with Impact now. What do you think about just your time in Impact Wrestling and just kind of a possible Impact New Japan type of working together?
As far as my time in Impact, or it was TNA when I was there, and I was there for 5 years, kind of from the earliest stages that was TNA, from when we were just doing the Asylum in Nashville on the weekly pay-per-view situation on Wednesday nights, to when we did our first, Impact taping in Orlando when we were on Fox Sports Network, to when we first did our, started our first 3-hour pay-per-view situations, all the first of the pay-per-views that we were doing, the Bound for Glories, then the lockdowns, all of Slammiversaries, every one of those that were the initial stages of that, I was all a part of that. And then it was a company in growth, but the one thing that a lot of us that were trying to be homegrown talents that didn't have a name coming from the old WWE, WWF days had with the company, there were several guys, obviously your AJ Styles and your Abysses and guys like that were kind of mainstays, obviously, and rightfully so. But there were a lot of guys like myself, you said the Rock and Rave was my most popular time there. I would argue that and say that my Horda Mania days were probably my most popular.
Yeah, that was good too. Yeah.
Rock and Rave was a lot of fun. I think they could have done a lot more with it. But, there was a lot of different times and injuries that I had in Impact. And I had a great time and learned working for that company a lot of what not to do and how to protect myself more than anything. But, it was company and growth. And a lot of times they would take the homegrown talent and go, hey, we're taking this next step forward, so we're going to step back from you and lean on guys that have made names in other places.
Yeah.
And me and many of the other guys that were trying to become stars in the business ourselves felt like that was the wrong direction. It's not like they couldn't come into the company, but the fact that like myself and several other talent, and I'll leave names out of it because they can speak for themselves, we were put on the back burners, and it was like, why are we being put on the back burners? We're the ones that have been here and gotten to this point. Now all of a sudden you're taking a step forward and saying, you're not the ones to help us move forward.
Yeah.
We didn't particularly like it at that time, but that's the business. I understand it to a degree. I believe that those mistakes were some of the reasons that the company started to really drop off. I think, unfortunately, they're fighting an uphill battle right now. With you're talking about Don Callis and Scott DeMore, who's back with the company and helping it grow again. They're fighting an uphill battle, but they're doing it, I think, in the right way now. I think that they're working with a lot of talent that have a little bit of name value from the independent days, and maybe working a couple other places, but they're really trying to build their own star base, which is great. I think that's the direction the company needs to go. I think if you watch their product now, you see some really, really, really good wrestling on Impact Wrestling. But unfortunately, a lot of people have a sour taste in their mouth about what it used to be, and it's not even the same product anymore. So I hope and I challenge the fan base who are giving all of professional wrestling a chance to go back and give Impact a chance, because I think it's doing the thing. As far as a relationship between Impact and New Japan, I don't know. It's always one of those things that Don is with us on the English commentary. He is in the office of Impact, so there's that bridge that could exist there. But I think it's going to take time because, there was, again, between the companies, a little bit of bad blood because of how they treated talent that New Japan had sent over there back in the past, mainly speaking of Okada. So, unfortunately, in this business, I deal with it all the time, that people, even though I'm doing what I'm doing in New Japan, have been doing it for nearly 7 years now, and me and Smith have been kicking butt since 2012 as a tag team, people still look back on my TNA days or my very short and more or less failed WWE time. And it's just kind of funny that people see that and that's all they think about is the past, not what's going on in the present and what the possibility is for the future, simply because that's what they remember. You bring it up with the fans that are asking the questions about the Rock and Rave Confession. I enjoyed that time, but that was a very long time ago for me in my career. I'm a very different person. I work and fight in a very different manner. I've been doing a lot of interesting big things, within a company that is growing and becoming a worldwide company. And it's hard getting past those preconceived notions. And I think that exists within the business side of the professional wrestling as well. So when you ask if there's a chance between Impact and New Japan, I say yes. In this business, there's always a chance. But it's going to take some time for both sides to go, okay, we're ready to do this and move forward together.
Yep. Fantastic. I totally agree. Last question. It says, would you ever see ROH or New Japan going mainstream like WWE and Impact Wrestling?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and to a degree, they are mainstream. I think that's kind of an interesting question, and itself is a testament to how they're seeing the products. Like we talk about, New Japan is on Access TV, which is owned by Mark Cuban. It grows and gets bigger and stronger every time that it's out there. ROH with the Sinclair product, and it's syndicated in different markets, but it's out there. So it is going mainstream. It's just at a mainstream, not like WWE, which obviously WWE has the market value, which is why Fox would throw $1 billion now, because they're looking at advertisement. They're not looking at wrestling.
Exactly.
They're just seeing that WWE's product is strong enough to carry the advertising that Fox will want to sell, and they're willing to put out $1 billion to the company. The hope and desire is that they'll see that same value in companies like New Japan or ROH or whatever the case may be, moving forward into the future. So yeah, those companies are mainstream right now, but the hope is that they become more mainstream like WWE. So I definitely can see it happening.
I absolutely agree with that. Well, Lance, I guess I have one more question for you personally that I'm wondering about as we're talking. So you and Davey Jr. are doing fantastic as a tag team. The Killer Elite Squad is absolutely bananas in the Japan market, and even American market. When you come and invade ROH and do some choke slams, some kick some heads off. So you as Lance Archer is becoming a big name. We talked to in New Orleans about just your impact in Japan and how your merch sells like crazy and things like that. What do you think? Just one of these days, maybe that Lance Archer breaks away from the Killer Elite Squad, becomes this huge name in Japan, and wins the never title or the Intercontinental title, or even bigger, the IWGP Heavyweight Championship. Have you ever thought about that in your career?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's not even a point of breaking away from a Killer Elite Squad. It's just finding our own path. I mean, I think in wrestling, a lot of times you have good and strong, successful tag teams, and there's always that big split, that big breakup, that big separation, and guys go their separate ways. I think Smith and I are a unique entity in the fact that I believe both of us could be single stars as well as being tag team stars.
Yeah.
If and when it comes to a time when he or I or both of us, at the same time, go on our own directions, we don't necessarily have to break the team up in the sense of, we're going after each other or fighting each other. But I think that we can both find single success just as we found tag team success. But,
yeah.
A lot of that is on the company to make the decision to give us those opportunities. And, right now that's a hard thing to do. When you start talking about the business of professional wrestling,
True.
The company sees us as the Killer Elite Squad, as that strong tag team. So, getting them to think about us as separate and single entities, going for the Never title, going for the IC title, going for the IWGP Heavyweight title, it's a hard thing. When you talk about the inner workings of the business of professional wrestling.
Yeah.
And right now, they are not seeing us in that aspect. They're just seeing us as the tag team, which is good, but we'd like an opportunity to prove ourselves as singles competitors along with being the strong tag team we've always been since, going back to 2012.
Agreed. Now, you were in the G1 tag in 2011 with Suzuki. You've never been to G1 singles, right?
No, I've been in the singles. I wrestled the G1 4 years in a row, and then we went to Noah.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And since then.
Yeah. So that was, y'all went to Noah what year?
2015, 2016.
And then y'all came back at the New Year's Dash, right?
2017.
Yeah, last year.
I had my injury. It was out for 7 months.
Yeah. Awesome stuff. Well, Lance, it's been a pleasure as always, man. It's always great to talk to you. Thank you, Wrestling Inc. You too. We have so much more to talk about. Thank you so much for your interaction with Lance Archer. Thank you, Lance, for availing your time as always, man. And Ichiban #1, my brother.
Thank you, man. And if people want to reach out and check me out, follow me on Twitter at @LanceHoyt, or my public Facebook page, Lance Hoyt, or Instagram, Lance_Hoyt, or if they're interested in getting some cool Killer Elite Squad gear, check out KillerEliteSquad.com.
Absolutely. And will you have this weekend's event on your Twitter and Facebook, or is there a website to go to for that?
I'm sure World Class Revolution has their own website, but I've already promoted it a couple times, and I'll continue to do so all the way into the event on Saturday.
Sounds good. Been a pleasure, Lance, as always. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you, man. Have a good night.
You too. Bye-bye. Man, Lance Hoyt, as always, Lance Archer. Always a pleasure to talk to him, man. He's a great guy. We've been cool for a while. Just through social media. He's been on the show. This is his third time on the show. and then met him first in person. I mean, we've communicated plenty of times. Met him in person for the first time at WrestleMania weekend. Interviewed him on the Wrestling Inc. Facebook page. Actually, it's my fourth time interviewing him. The third time being on the Pancakes and Powerslam show. We got to talk a few times in New Orleans, and man, just a great humble guy, and it's one of those people. For people who are actually Lance Archer fans, big fans of New Japan and fans of Lance Archer, it's one of those things that a lot of people say, never meet your hero, so to speak. And so for those who are big addicts of Lance Archer and Suzuki-gun and New Japan, Lance is a great person to meet. Humble, very, very, very proud of being in the business, and just really doing a fantastic job, kind of reiterating and just kind of just kind of reestablishing his career for the past few years. So yeah, just absolutely fantastic. And Lance, of course, follow him at Lance Hoyt. He'll be doing some work this weekend, May 26th, for World Class Revolution, I believe. World Class Revolution Wrestling. I believe it's that, or World Class Revolution Pro Wrestling, something in those vicinities, something in that nature. Go to Lance's page to see what exactly it is, and go and support if you live nearby. All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is time for some trivia. It's time for some headlines. It's time for some Raw and SmackDown review, of course, with my buddy, great co-host with the most. He is Evan Tech Proud. How are you tonight, sir? Evan Tech Proud, how you doing tonight? All right. Well, yes, I hear you. I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I'm meeting right now, driving with a little bleaching issues. I'm here, feeling okay. How you feeling?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Doing fantastic. We got a good one for you tonight, dog. So we got so much to talk about, as always, man. So, man, yeah. Big shout out, man. Big shout out. He's a tall guy. I'm 6'1" and he's 6'8", 6'9". When we were talking in New Orleans during WrestleMania weekend, I knew that he was tall. We do it for you. That's right. Absolutely. Big Cass size. I've never met Big Cass in person. I've seen him in person, I think. I've never talked to him in person. But Lance, he's huge. Big tall guy. But it's funny because being around so many wrestlers during WrestleMania weekend, I interviewed I interviewed Archer, I interviewed Garza Jr., I interviewed Billy Gunn, I interviewed one of the boys, Dalton Castle's boys. I might be missing one or two. But it's very, very interesting that, like I said, I'm 6'1", so I'm just like 3 or 4 inches above average, and it's it's funny that so many wrestlers are a lot shorter than I thought. It's very interesting. Very, very interesting. Yeah, and because I was hanging around. Yeah, absolutely. I was like, I didn't know you were that short. Like I interviewed Teddy Hart. I interviewed Teddy Hart too. And yeah, that was
I think I had him about a couple inches. I ran into him in the elevator WrestleMania weekend. I'm like,
yeah, Teddy Hart's, yeah, he's smaller than I thought he was. But yeah, when I interviewed Teddy Hart, he, oh Yeah, man. He was go to WrestleZone's videos and you'll see my interview with Teddy Hart. Man, I've listened to probably one or two of his shoot interviews, maybe even three. He's very high in the profanity department. I don't like to indulge my ears with that. Uh, but he he was like calm. He was calm when I interviewed him at first. Like the beginning of the interview was calm, and then he went into Teddy Hart mode. Like he just went full on Teddy Hart and just started going on and just started talking about how much I should be a wrestler because we were actually I was doing some work. Funny, very interesting. I was doing work for the promotion that Hoyt was competing in. That's the first time I met him, and I met him again. And now, the first time I was talking to him, and I talked to him again at the House of Hardcore event. I talked to Sammy Callahan too. Actually, we're supposed to be getting something together with Callahan to get him on the show here soon. But yeah, Callahan's funny. I talked to Callahan, and yeah, he was interesting.
The joke he was ribbing me in New Orleans with Rich Swann. He's a funny guy.
Yeah, very interesting. I saw Rich Swann, and him and Sue Young were like in the super duper cut at Wale Mania. I was covering the Mark Henry interview, and I saw a bunch of people. I talked to Moose. I talked to Sanjay Dutt. I met him in person for the first time, and he remembered me. He's been on the show twice, and he remembered being on the show. Moose, Sanjay, Eddie Edwards. I talked to Eddie Edwards, and I was gonna talk to Rich Swann, but he was like super in the cut, and him and Sue Young were like to the point where it seemed like they didn't even want to be noticed. So it's me as a journalist, I'm always looking. Yeah, it's what me as a journalist. I'm always looking for like the next story or the next interview to get that moment. It's that's just the life of a journalist. I was just talking to someone today, a former WWE wrestler, and I was telling them that the journalists' minds run 1,000, 1,000 miles a minute. Yeah, and yeah, nonstop, absolutely. And I was, part of me was like, oh, there's a fantastic interview. Go up to Rich Swann. And then the other part of me was saying that he probably wouldn't accept the interview because he was like really trying to be in the cut, really trying to be incognito with Sue Young. So, and there were some people that I'm sure he heard. There were some people saying, "Isn't that Rich Swann?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's Rich Swann." But speaking of Rich Swann, that dude is short. He is super short. Baltimore's own.
I think it's probably. I don't even think I ever told you this, but it's on this legit. I've actually talked to Rich for an hour at WrestleMania weekend because me and Rich Swann are cousins. So I never told anybody that.
Oh, nice.
I know Rich. We got to talk for a bit. It was a family, we're cousins, and we're not like 6 or 7 cousins. We're actually pretty close. So I've been on for a while. I never told anybody. But Rich is like that. Rich doesn't like being noticed. That's just his personality. He's trying to be low key, even with everything after WWE.
Yeah.
He's nice to fans, but he's one of those guys like, hey, how you doing? I got to talk to him for hours to be family.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only reason why. Other people was coming up to him saying hi. He said hi, and then several times we kind of moved away to like a quiet spot. That's when Sammy Callahan came in. Him and Lee Clark were good buddies, and I ended up joking around with us. And as only they can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'll say this to you. Sanjay Dutt on my show a couple of times, good buddy of mine. He actually got me onto these vegan cookies. You can get them at 7-Eleven. Those are his favorites. I think it's called Something Brothers cookies. They're 100% vegan, but they're really good.
Mm.
They're like Something Brothers. I have to look it up. 100% vegan. They're oatmeal raisin chocolate chip. He talked about it on my show, and when I saw him over the weekend, I was like, "Cousin you, brother." I thought I'll be liking any vegan cookies.
Is Rich like? Is he full vegan?
Rich isn't. Sanjay Dutt. Sanjay Dutt.
Oh, Sanjay. Is he full vegan?
Who got me into cookies? Yeah, I mean Sanjay.
Oh, okay.
I think Sanjay is one. He's like he just eats. No, I'm sorry, I said which one. Rich Swan isn't vegan at all. Sanjay Dutt is pretty close to vegan. I know Austin Aries is 100%.
Yeah, he's yeah. Austin Aries is. You read his Twitter, and you'll see how vegan he is. He's like the vegan spokesman. Yeah.
Yeah, I Chavo Guerrero. I was good friends with Singer before he passed, but Chavo was another one, man. I was like, wow, I didn't know he was that short.
Yeah. I talked to Chavo last year, and short guy. Yeah, he was short. Like I'm good. I've talked Christopher Daniels, buddy of mine. He's been on the show a couple times, and he was shorter than I thought he was. I was talking to Jay Lethal. Check out the. I put it on my Facebook. I was talking to Jay Lethal and took a picture with him. Jay Lethal's been on the show here before too, and he's short guy. I met Mark Briscoe. Jay is short too, and it was shorter than I thought. Shorter than I thought. I'll say. I tell you who else was shorter, a lot shorter than I thought was Silas Young. Silas Young was a lot shorter than I thought. It was I go to ROH events all the time when it comes here. And was one time that he was at an ROH event. I was right next to him. He was coming from I was right next to the aisle. And he was coming from the aisle, like I think he was doing a run-in, and he had a hat on. So he was like trying to be, inconspicuous doing the run-in. And I was like, is that Silas Young? And then, then he went in the ring. I was like, that is Silas Young. He's a lot shorter than I thought he was. Got a bunch of interaction here. What do you think? Dustin's asking, what do you think is Enzo's next career path? He's been ghost on social media. Well, the reason why he was ghost on social media is because, it's like this all the time. It's like when you or when you're a part of some type of saga, trial, when you're indicted, when you're a victim, when you're a suspect, any of that, any social media conversations, any social media interactions, any of that stuff can be counted as evidence. So I'm about to become a doctor in forensic psychology, and so I'm done with classes. I'm in my dissertation right now, about to become a doctor. And Dustin says his trial's been over. No, it's not been over. There was just the announcement last week that it was cleared of charges. So I think the police, I think it was Phoenix Police, if I'm not mistaken. They just made the announcement last week. So any of that stuff, based on the announcement, now he's making more, media. He's having a bigger media presence. Now he's talking about he's going to have some type of thing going on Monday nights. So he's making more of a media presence now, but none of that. I mean, you're a ghost town. Rich Swann was the same way, when he was going through, his thing with Sue Young, no social media, and because any of that can be used against you. But he's cleared of all charges now. I can't make the comment of, just because I said I'm about to become a part of the, I'm versed on a doctoral level as far as the court system is concerned, because I'm, about to be a doctor in the forensic field. And, of course, just because you're deemed not guilty doesn't mean you didn't do it. So there's just a lot of times it just means that there's not enough evidence, that you did it. So I don't know. I don't know. Like we've talked about this on the show before. There were a lot of gaps in the victims, the alleged victims' story. From me, it's because there are a lot of gaps, but I don't know. So I can't make that comment to know what happened or not. But as from a legal standpoint, he's not guilty. All right, so we're about to do some trivia. We're going to skim through the headlines today for the sake of time. At the end of we're going to skim through Raw and SmackDown as well. Be sure to give your thoughts on Raw and SmackDown. The flavor of the week this week at the end of the show is, and of course, be interactive on the YouTube live as well. If you can recruit 5 people from New Japan right now. So we're going to stay in the New Japan vibe since we had Lance Archer on the show tonight. If you can recruit 5 people right now, you were a recruiter for the WWE. If you could, you are the William Regal of the WWE. So you go to a New Japan event, WWE's Triple H is saying, hey, recruit 5 people from the WWE, talk to them, get some contracts, this and that. Any 5 people in New Japan right now, who would it be? Who's your top 5? So Evan and I at the end of the show. Yes, I agree. I agree with that one. It says first automatic. Yes, I agree with that one. We'll get to that at the end of the show. So for sure, that should be very fun. The top 5 people that you recruit right now from New Japan Pro Wrestling. All right, first trivia question before we go into the headlines. We got some loose end trivia questions from a couple weeks back before we get to the really, really fun ones, the really just random ones. I'm going back to the random trivia questions like I used to back in the day. Random as ever trivia questions. So be on your toes for sure. Good choices, Dustin. Bring those back at the end of the show and I'll read them. Because those are some great choices. Who did Drew McIntyre lose the Intercontinental Championship to in 2010? Who did Drew McIntyre lose the Intercontinental Championship to in 2010? Man, I tell you, I am good choices, Ryan. Bring those up back again at the end of the show. Those are good choices as well. Drew McIntyre, man, I think that he is killing it. I think that he's killing it, man. I think that he, it's funny because I've had him on the show before too. And I was one of the people who had him on the show last before. Yeah, it was his show before. I was one of the last people to have him on the show before going back to WWE, and we talked off air too. So I knew a few things. But yeah, it was really interesting to see just the migration of McIntyre 8 years ago, who was super slim. You know what I mean? He was tall and slinky. Good job at the Mo 85. Kofi Kingston. Tall and slinky Drew McIntyre. Now that guy is like a brick wall. He's just he's another person and like in muscle. You know what I mean? Just a brand new person, and like 30 pounds of muscle has been added to him ever since WWE 2010. Man, he's got the look. He's got amazing. I really like his music. I've always liked the Claymore finisher. Yeah, I've been a big fan of the Claymore. He's got everything, man. I'm glad they brought him back as a heel. In the he was a face in NXT, but I'm glad that they brought him back as a heel. And Yeah, yeah. He's got everything checked out. Yeah.
Great. I got the ironically, me and Mel, my girlfriend, we actually flew from New Orleans from New Orleans to was it Dallas? No, it was in Tampa Bay. What part of Texas was it? It was a layover. Anyway, the plane from New Orleans to Texas. Drew McIntyre was on the same plane as us.
Oh, nice.
We spoke. Didn't ask him for a picture. Didn't ask him for a picture. Just just talking. He recognized who I was, and I told him he knew who you were and who I was, and a lot of people see him. He said, "How he was a nice person.
Oh yeah.
He was jacked, and it's all natural. You could tell it wasn't no voice. It wasn't
right.
He was amazing compared. I thought he was on my radar when he went to TNA.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Which a lot of people tend to dismiss that. The Claymore finisher, and he had a great run. And
it's
was the
yeah, go.
Next week.
Yep. It's funny because a lot of people have there's some really good names. We might even do this as a flavor of the week. The top 5 people who use TNA as a kind of like a growing ground to have a better WWE career. And Drew's on one of the top of the list. Of course, Lashley probably is the top. There's a couple other names, but Drew in the recent history, Drew McIntyre and Bobby Lashley are like the top 2 who was released from WWE. Lashley's release was one of his things. That was his deal, because Vince was very high on Bobby Lashley. But basically it's people who have left WWE and then went to TNA and then were so good in TNA that WWE brought him back. And Cody and Lashley are really, the top 2 that really grew their stock like crazy in TNA so much that the WWE was interested in bringing them back. So very interesting stuff. Next question. At what pay? Yes, Christian did do it. He was one of my choices. At what pay-per-view did Eddie Guerrero win the WWE Championship? At what pay-per-view did Eddie Guerrero win the WWE Championship? Man, already. No Way Out 2004. Nice, man. Good stuff. Mo is he's killing it tonight. He's killing it. Seen that live. Yes, that was one of my favorite main events of all time. One of my favorite main events of all time was Eddie Guerrero versus Brock Lesnar. I'm a sucker for underdog world champion wins. I'm a sucker for that. I'm a sucker for when Steamboat beats Ric Flair at Chi-Town 89. Well, it was Chi-Town 89, wasn't it? I'm a sucker for when Ron Simmons beat Vader, and those moments where, what? No, that wasn't a world title win. I'm a sucker for that almost got you a buzzer. When Daniel, go ahead. Yeah, it was kind of like a he's like, like it was like a lazy crossbody, just kind of leaning on you. He just kind of fell on him. Oh man, that was hilarious. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was hilarious. Daniel Bryan, when he won the title for the first time, I see another comment here that was really, really good. Yeah, the Eddie Guerrero celebration, that was fantastic. Yeah, I mean, Eddie Guerrero, man, he will always be missed. He's one of the all-time greats. And it's so sad because based on the talks at the time, Eddie Guerrero's he was pinged to win the title again. So very sad because I would have loved to see Guerrero as champ again. That would have been amazing. He is a legend. He is. I'm so glad that he's in the Hall of Fame, and I'm so glad that I got to experience the time. I got to experience the main event times of Eddie Guerrero, and even his journey. Even teaming with Art Barr, back in the day when worlds collide. Even the time when he was, just a cruiserweight in the WCW, his ECW days, even the time the LWO, and just the migration as a main eventer in the WWE time. Los Guerreros. There's so much of a journey. I wrote an article years ago in Bleacher Report about Eddie Guerrero, and type if you're Google Chris Featherstone Eddie Guerrero, and I'm sure that you'll see that the article I wrote years ago about Eddie Guerrero when he actually I think it was celebrating it was like an anniversary of his passing, and I wrote an article about him. So go check that out. Next question. What years did Bob Backlund win his WWE championships? How about that? What years did Bob Backlund win his WWE championships? I'm sure that's a difficult one. All right, so we got some headlines. Let's get through these headlines. We've had so much fun. That's we got some headlines that we're gonna have to skim through. I got a question. What do you think? Would he be an NXT coach today or still wrestle? Oh, that's a good question. I'll answer that. Do you think Eddie Guerrero would be an NXT coach today or still wrestle? That's a fantastic question.
Well, he would either still be wrestling, or I think he actually would be a coach because he loves the business so much.
Yeah. I think I'll answer that on the other side of the headlines. So we'll be right back. Here we go. Okay, so Eddie Guerrero would be, how old would he be at this point? Let's see. Eddie Guerrero, he was born, so he was 38 when he died in 2005. So 51. He was born October 9th, 1967. So he would be 51 in October. Okay, so 51. I don't think he'd be wrestling anymore at 51.
Yeah, I think he'd be a coach. I mean, 51 is in. Look at Sting and Undertaker. Maybe he'd be part-time.
Yeah, but the thing is, with Sting and Taker, they are so larger than life characters, that because Undertaker is, I think, 52 right now. I think he 50, or he might even be 53 now. I think he was born in 65. Someone look that up for me. I think Undertaker was born in 65, if I'm not mistaken. So that would make him 53. Let's see. Yes, March 24th, 1965. So he's 53 years old. But he wrestles once a year. Well, he wrestled twice this year. With Eddie Guerrero, see, the thing is with names like that, you have to be kind of larger than life characters to like make it worth it. Yeah, and it's like Sting and Taker are like they're like the characters who are like timeless. You know what I mean? Like they have that type of presence. I mean, this year's Taker was like old school, Taker. He looked fantastic. We were right. Yeah, we were a stone's throw away from him when he was coming down the ramp, and we saw him up close. And Taker he looked great. Definitely happy for him to become, a transformation and get back in shape, because the past few years, it's like, man, he's lost his mystique, because of that. You know what I mean? Yeah, right. And
currently driving in my truck on my way back home. If you hear any noise.
Oh, no worries. No worries. So yeah, it's interesting because Sting and Taker have timeless characters. Eddie Guerrero doesn't. He doesn't have that timeless gimmick. So I think at 50, I think at 51, I think he'd probably be I think he'd be a coach at this point. So thank you, Ryan. Yes, March 24th, 1965. 53 years old is the Undertaker. All right, so we got so much to talk about with these headlines. We only got a very short time to do it before we get to the Raw and SmackDown review and the flavor of the week. Man, I hate to bring it the moment to be somber, but this is so serious to me. I've chatted with him on a few occasions last year, and I think over the past couple of years. We were trying to line up some schedule. We were trying to line up the schedule for him to be on my show, I think a couple of years ago. Because he was doing so much work with OVW. Nice guy from my interactions with him. Very nice guy. But it's so sad. It is so sad because I've written 3 articles on him, just giving people the process. I wrote an article back in the summer of 2017. I wrote an article on Wrestling Inc. in December of 2017, and I just wrote an article today about it. Matt's wife, Lindsay Matt Capitelli, former Tough Enough winner Matt Capitelli, former OVW heavyweight champion. Man, it's really tough because I was getting emotional when I was reading Matt Capitelli, Tough Enough winner, season 3 with John Hennigan. Someone was asking someone. Yeah, someone was asking who in the chat. Man, just so sad. He had so much promise. He won Tough Enough season 3. He went to OVW and did very well there. Won the heavyweight championship in OVW. And it was a couple years after he won Tough Enough that he was having some symptoms. Basically, he was training with Al Snow. He was begging Al Snow. Al Snow said this. He was begging him not to go to the hospital, but it was one of those things that he was having so much symptoms that it was the best idea. It was just he really didn't have any choice but to go to the hospital. They found that he had a brain tumor. So he had to forfeit his championship in 2006. The surgery was successful back then. They took away most of the tumor, save about 10%, I believe. Then, unfortunately, 10 years later, Matt gave us an update on Facebook that the tumor grew back large and much more aggressive than it did when they removed it. So yeah, like the condition was I don't remember what it's called. Grade 4. I don't even want to mess it up. I don't even know. Yeah, it's grade 4 something. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but I'll probably look it up. It was called a grade 4 something. I don't remember. I'll look it up here in a minute. But that basically was so bad that doctors said that that's can never be treated properly. And they also were talking about how they also was talking about how 5% of people with the same type of tumor and form of cancer survive within 5 years. So he had a surgery and it was successful, but there was still a part of it that was inoperable. And that was the one, there was afraid that it was close to his brainstem, and then ended up turning like really, really bad. And nowadays, Lindsay, it was called I'm looking it up now, a grade 4 glioblastoma. That's what a grade 4 glioblastoma tumor. So it's considered the deadliest form of cancer that has never been defeated. So now he has terminal cancer. His wife Lindsay wrote a blog. So it's a heartbreaking update. Yeah. So I would encourage everyone to read Lindsay's blog, Matt's wife. She spoke so highly of Matt and was talking about how optimistic he is and was throughout the whole process. Still positive, even in having cancer, and it's just so sad. I'm not going to read all the blog, but she says, I read a portion of it. She says, I don't know how much longer we have left, so I'm just loving him and kissing him, and encouraging him with my words, I hope, and reading the Bible to him at night, making sure that he knows that it'll be okay. I mean, that's the gist of it. My prayers, I can say my thoughts, I can think about it as much as I can, but my prayers, are with the family with Matt and his family. He's not gone from us yet, so there's still hope, and really wish that I really wish that he can pull through it, and I don't want him to suffer any more pain. So if that means that he'll be pain-free here and he'll be miraculously healed, or he'll be pain-free on the other side, and I'll get to wine and dine with kings and queens in the big house upstairs, baby. If I get to do that with him on the other side, pain-free, I just hope and pray that whatever it is, he'll be pain-free, because the state that he's in is so sad, and my hope is that he'll pull through it miraculously. It's the doctor can say one thing and the diagnosis, but God says another. So I'm definitely praying for him, man. And it's really sad. It's really heartbreaking. It's really sombering. But we here at the Pancakes and Powerslam show, we are praying that he pulls through it, and the Capitelli family will continue to surround him with their encouragement as we pray for him to pull through it.
Yeah, it's tough. My late pastor watched him go through the ups and downs of chemo radiation. He passed away in 2005 of colon cancer. And my uncle had cancer. So watching someone you love go through, I've been to the chemo treatments and the radiation and watched the ups and downs and had to carry him up the steps of church. And I definitely know what that's like.
Yeah.
And then going through what I went through with my mother, it's just tough. Somebody you love going through pain, and
yep,
I know what that's like. It's just tough. So if it's best for him to pass on to this world and cross over to the greatest stage of them all, that's the best thing.
Yeah.
So, I definitely do hope, if any possibility, a miracle happens.
Yep.
The mom definitely goes out to it.
Absolutely. I like I said, man, whether it's on this side or the other side, I I'm praying for no more pain. So within him and within the family, I'm praying that there's no more pain. And prayerfully, I'm sure that his wife and his family and friends will wish that there's a miracle that happens and that he's pain-free on this side. But if that doesn't happen, I know that he'll be pain-free on the other side. So whatever it is, I just pray that he'll be pain-free, and that the family and the friends will be able to cope with it, whatever happens. And during this time, his wife will continue to be an encouragement to him, because that's what he needs. I mean, just physically, he's not getting better, but he can still say "I love you too" to her. He can still feel her warm embrace, and that right there, that is amazing. That there's still that mental capacity in him, that he's able to feel the love of his wife. That's absolutely incredible. So our prayers go with Matt and his wife and family and friends, and we are praying for a recovery, and we're praying for freedom of pain. All right, so All In sold out in under 30 minutes. We talked about that with Lance, and just really covered that with Lance's interview. Just, it's unprecedented. It's really interesting that without any marquee matches, All In was able to sell out within 30 minutes. And it just goes to show, just like I said, how the professional wrestling business is nowadays, and how you don't necessarily in 29 minutes 30 seconds that room is clarifying and to the T. 29 minutes and 30 seconds. Thank you for that. So yeah, it should be interesting. I've been asked by people if I'm All In, unless All In's media give me a pass to do some media coverage and pay for my flight to Chicago, I won't be attending live. There's some secondary markets tickets that are like 3 times as much as what Cody was selling them for. Good question. Will it be streamed? So Cody was interviewing with Dave Meltzer and Brian Alvarez. It was a fantastic interview, by the way. Check that out. He said that there's no plans for it to be streamed right now, because he's having people from ROH and New Japan a part of the All In. So for the sake of for the sake, licensing and things like that, and just he's working with many companies, so who has the rights to that, to the streaming, and just dealing with that and things like that. So it's a conundrum to be able to stream it working with multiple companies. He said that he was talking to some people in I think he was like in a conference room talking to some people, and they were considering streaming it through them. So right now there's no plans to stream it, but he's definitely, there's time. There's a little over 3 months to see how they can work that out. So hopefully so. I would love to see it for sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Someone's saying at least put it on pay-per-view. Again, it's one of those things that it's working with multiple companies. This isn't the AWA Super Show anymore, where you could put a bunch of people from different companies together and Super Clash. Yeah, the Super Clash. I think they had 3 of those, didn't they? Didn't they have 3 Super Clashes? And what?
And the third one was the worst.
Third one was Zabisco Hennig, wasn't it? Wasn't that the third Super Clash? Was the third Super Clash? What was the third Super Clash main event? I thought it was Hennig and Zabisco for the AWA title. if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. Super Clash 3. I think. Let's see what the main event. Anybody knows what the main event for Super Clash 3 was? Let's see.
Was that Lawler or?
Oh, it might have been Lawler Hennig.
Gosh,
Lawler. Or might have been Lawler.
I think Lawler was in it.
Chavo Guerrero, Mando Guerrero, Hector Guerrero defeated Cactus Jack in the Rock and Roll RPMs.
Oh wow.
Mike Davis and Tommy Lane. So Chavo Senior, Chavo Classic was a part of that was December 13th, 1988. The UIC Pavilion in Chicago, Illinois had a draw of 1,672 people. Wow. Oh, there were four. Wait a minute, 4 Super Clashes. Okay, so Eric Embry defeating Jeff Jarrett to win the WCWA Light Heavyweight Championship. The main event was okay. So Jerry Lawler defeated Kerry Von Erich through the referee stoppage to unify the AWA and the WCWA, the World Class Wrestling Association Heavyweight Championships. So the main event was the Rock and Roll Express defeating. Oh goodness. So the main events, Stud Stable versus Rock and Roll Express. Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Double disqualification. That was crazy. All right. So Super Class 4 drew 2,000 people. April 8th, 1990 in St. Paul, Minnesota. And the main event was the Trooper and Paul Diamond defeating the Destruction Crew, which is Enos and Bloom, in a steel cage match. Wow. Oh, wow, ladies and gentlemen. Super Clash 4. I interviewed Paul Diamond on my show this year. I should have talked to him about Super Clash 4. That would have been a good talking point. Bring Paul Diamond back so we could talk about Super Clash 4. Tully Blanchard defeated Tommy Janner. Wow. Baron Von Roski subbing in for Junkyard Dog, defeating Colonel De Beers. Zabisco defeated Mr. Saito to win the AWA World Heavyweight Championship with Bockwinkel as a special ref. Wow. Super Clash, ladies and gentlemen. How about that? All right, so yeah.
I'll actually be in Chicago during that weekend for the
Starcast, yeah.
If you do have a table, now will I be at all in? I have no idea because, like you, if I do not get a media pass to do anything, I shall not be attending.
Yeah, absolutely. Next question. Yeah, me too. I'm very happy for him. How many times did Bret Hart win the WWE Championship? How many times did Bret Hart win the WWE Championship? All right, let's fly through these. Ronda Rousey. All right, so SmackDown and Fox, huge deal. Of course, we kind of alluded to that with Lance Archer as well. So active October of 2019. Good job, Mo. Five-time WWE champion was won by Bret Hart. And you know what Booker T told Bret Hart when he won his 5th WWE championship?
I do it for you.
Absolutely, ladies and gentlemen, I do it for you. And so, yeah, so SmackDown and Fox, it was really interesting. Changing to Friday nights as well. The Rap reported that. It'll be interesting to see. Meltzer said that some people within WWE said that they have a feeling that it may go taped again, but it's $1 billion deal. I mean, it's $1 billion agreement, 5 years, $205 million a year, and to me, it would be a shock for WWE to go back taped after Fox, out of anybody, Fox getting SmackDown for $1 billion deal.
And not only that, people don't know the brand of Fox TV, what they'll be calling new Fox, which would be like new direction they're taking, is not owned under Disney. So
Right.
they're definitely going to need all the ad revenue that they're going to need from SmackDown being live.
Yeah.
You're not going to make it for this money or something that's taped.
Right.
So SmackDown needs to be live now. Being on a Friday night, I mean, that's kind of a bad night.
Yeah, it's usually a dead spot, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's usually a dead spot when it comes to television. Within that Fox slot too, it's usually a dead spot. But we'll see. Hopefully they'll do it. We still didn't have an answer to this question. What years did Bob Backlund win his WWE championships? So they're still waiting on that. People said 78 and 79. Nope. So we got one person saying one part right and another person saying another part right. So we need one person to say both years at the same time. But I see two of the correct years right now in the chat room, but they're by two different people. So straighten that out, and I'll shout you out if you got the right answer. All right, so yeah, so we'll see. We'll see. It's not until October, but huge news. All right, Dustin gets the credit for it. 1978, he defeated superstar Billy Graham. 1994, he defeated Bret the Hitman Hart. That is the correct answer. Great job. Next question on deck. What was Michael Hayes' name when he was an announcer? What was Michael Hayes' name when he was an announcer? Yes, we loved him when he was an announcer. All right, so Ronda Rousey, we'll see. We'll talk about this more than Money in the Bank time. Doc Hendricks, good job, Ryan. You spelled Doc wrong, but we'll give you that. C-Town 100 as well. He's D-O-K. Doc Hendricks. D-O-K. Doc. D-O-K Hendricks. What a crazy way to spell Doc. So, yeah. So we talked about Rousey. As far as just, working the singles matches. She's being protected right now. I like what they did with the signing. We'll get to Raw here in a minute. We're running short on time. So we're going to skim through this. $500 cash prize. Is that coming from your bank account? We'll see. All right, so Tom McGee, former WWE wrestler, beaten by as much as 6 young men over a parking spot in Los Angeles. That is crazy, man. What in the world is this world getting to? I mean, this is it's ridiculous. Yeah, man. What? Tom McGee, yeah, he was supposed to be like Hulk Hogan. I think they were trying to groom him to be like Hulk Hogan, and then found out that he had no charisma, and then they turned him heel at the latter part of his WWE tenure. Yeah, he was managed by Jimmy Hart. But yeah, I think they were grooming him to be like Hogan, but no, he just didn't have the charisma, unfortunately. But he's almost 60 now, and he's getting up over a parking spot. I mean, that's sad. What in the world is that all about? All right, so real quick, X-Pac, there never be a Hogan. I agree with that. There'll never be a Hogan. X-Pac was talking about Big Cass being in a doghouse. He basically said it's better to say sorry. It's better it's better to ask for forgiveness than to say sorry. It's better to say sorry than to ask for permission, is what he said. And that's a big rule. I've heard other people say that in the pro wrestling industry. You just don't be rebellious and defy what you're being told by the management. He was told no, he couldn't continue to beat up the midget. Reportedly. From what we know is still storyline. So yeah, he had to sell the injury in the recent tour that they were at, being pulled from the match. I mean, WWE, they don't play when it comes to putting someone in a doghouse. Axe Dolph Ziggler. He's finally getting out of the doghouse with this teaming up with Drew McIntyre. So he's been in the doghouse for a while. Del Rio, there's been people who's been in that doghouse, and it's not a good place to be. All right, so real quick, your quick thoughts on Raw and SmackDown.
I thought Raw was okay. I did like the contract sign. I did like how it was done. As I say right now, I think Raw is one of the biggest things on Raw and WWE. I think this Lashley is just stuck in this purgatory. It's sad. And that segment with Sami Zayn,
his sisters.
I don't know what was worse. Was that segment, or what was the segment last year for the Stone?
Alexa Bliss.
The Alexa Bliss segment.
Yeah, that was terrible.
Yes, I'm trying to figure out which segment was worse. It just.
They both were really bad. They both were terrible. So they both were terrible. Yeah. SmackDown.
SmackDown, yeah. I enjoy SmackDown. Here's the thing is, SmackDown reminds me of WWE when we're getting on Nitro. Well, they're giving away all these matches for free and not pay-per-view. It's like they're hot shotting Daniel Bryan now, ever since he's been able to get cleared.
Yep.
They have him wrestle all of these pay-per-view quality matches every week on SmackDown. It's like, what about AJ Styles? Now, I love the AJ Styles Nakamura feud. That's going well. But at the end of the day, it's like, why can't we see Daniel Bryan against Jeff Hardy in a pay-per-view?
Yeah.
One of the throwaway pay-per-views. The match was okay. I've known Jeff Hardy and Matt. They're cool guys. I've met them a few times. This match was maybe 7-8 years ago. They're cool, but Jeff Hardy's fat. He's overweight in a way. He still has the charisma, but he's just not the Jeff Hardy of old. And my surprise today is that they're good brothers. Anderson and Gallows finally won a match.
Yes, I was very happy about that.
And they get to go against the Bludgeon Brothers, and I'm just glad they finally getting over. I think their career in WWE they've been so washed down.
Yep.
And so held back. Of course, they had a great career in New Japan, and they come to WWE, and they had 3 weeks of it. It was just tough, and then it's basically like a purgatory. So that's my thoughts on SmackDown. I enjoyed SmackDown better than Raw. I love Nakamura, AJ, and like I said, Anderson and Gallows won.
Yep.
So I was pretty happy. And the New Day segment was funny too.
Oh yeah, I loved it. Oh, well, I'm a big fan of New Day anyway. So, next question: who were the members of the Disciples of Apocalypse? Who were the members of the Disciples of Apocalypse? All right, so my Raw thoughts. Seth Rollins continues to kill it. I like him in the Intercontinental Championship level, that workhorse level. Not a fan of Reigns and Jinder, but I understand that they're trying to give Reigns there. It's like, I'm still all of them. Yes, all of the people who are the Disciples of Apocalypse. I'm still giving, I'm still a big Roman Reigns fan. I think the WWE is kind of listening to the fans. Crush, Chain, Skull, 8-Ball. Correct. Absolutely. Yeah, Paul Ellering. Good job. Good job, Paul Ellering as well. Crush, Skull and 8-Ball was the Harris Brothers. Chains was Prime Time Brian Lee. It just seems like they're kind of listening to the fans, and they're pulling Reigns away from the world title scene. But it's like, it's so funny. I was reading, I was listening to a lot of interviews of what people thought about Roman Reigns. Jericho put Reigns over like crazy. Daniel Bryan put Reigns over like crazy when he was an interview with Jericho, Daniel Bryan was talking about how great Roman Reigns is in the ring, although being, young in the ring. Who else? Somebody Miz put Roman Reigns over like crazy. Paul Heyman put Roman Reigns over like crazy. I listened to a bunch of interviews about Roman Reigns, and there's so many people who within the business who put Roman Reigns over like crazy, and they say he's a great worker, but the fans say he can't wrestle, but the actual wrestlers in the ring with him say that he's a great worker. So, which opinion is a little bit more important? So, lastly, sad. I like Lashley. See, here's the thing. This is contrary to popular opinion, but I like Bobby Lashley as a babyface. I'm cool with it. I'm cool with Lashley as a face. But the way that they're making him a face is just terrible. But here's the thing. Someone's saying that the fans matter most. The fans does matter most, but the fans' opinion doesn't matter as much as the wrestler's opinion when it comes to someone who they were actually in the ring with. So if Chris Jericho and Daniel Bryan and The Miz says that Roman Reigns is a good, especially someone like Daniel Bryan, who says that, and Chris Jericho both say that Roman Reigns and Miz is a good worker too. So for all of them to say that Roman Reigns is a great worker, their opinions matter a lot more than than the fans does.
It's like this to the fans. This is no disrespect to any of the fans listening. The fans do matter, but like Featherstone said, me and Featherstone, we're both professional radio show hosts. Featherstone's a journalist. I've never been a journalist. I don't call myself one, but I'm a professional radio show host and personality. If me and Featherstone go out of our way and praise another radio show, that, hey, these guys are doing great. These guys are doing well. But yet the fans decide, oh, they don't know what they're doing. Guess whose word is going to travel?
Right.
How do you actually do this as a part of a living to actually know what it takes to have a successful show?
Yep.
Or really understand it that hasn't actually done it. And
Right.
That's pretty much the same thing. Reigns, I hate Reigns. I'm not the biggest Reigns fan, but he's really good in the ring. And regardless if I think he was good in the ring, if I have the Daniel Bryan and Chris Jericho, I have people that actually do the same thing, praise him.
Right. And The Miz. Yeah. Yep.
And The Miz, right. And that's another thing. The Miz is underrated. I think that's what I forgot to mention a couple of shows ago. When you talk about who's the most underrated, The Miz. People have no idea where The Miz has come from, how he's really had to fought every inch to get where he's at today. He's transcended the WWE. Look how good he's in the ring, despite his concussion issue.
Yeah. For a second time, we got a roll here, but someone's saying I can dig Bobby as a face, but the writers suck at making him a good face. Yeah, I agree. He got a lot of pops at the end of the sister segment, which I'm like, okay, well that matters. That's what it was for. He got the pops for it, so I'm at least happy that happened. But that segment was just terrible. Someone is saying the fans pay their bills. Not anymore, really, to an extent, but not really anymore. You know what I mean? And it's the gate is only a fraction of the money that back in the day. It's like, hey, listen, we get this big gate and everybody gets a cut. But nowadays, it's like, I've listened to a bunch of interviews and I've done a lot of I've did a lot of writing, and I said this I think last week or a week before. I've done a lot of writing and listening to conference calls and presentations from the CFO George Berrios, and he's one of he breaks down just the denominations and just he factors out just where the money's going and how they're getting the revenue, and a huge portion of their revenue is digital and social media and ad TV deals. Like $1 billion TV deals. It's much more important than any type of gate. I mean, you can't you can't make $1 billion gate, and they've never done that. And so that has a bigger presence, that has a bigger focus than actual, and that's the reason why WWE can produce anything that they want to, and it really doesn't matter because they're getting billion-dollar deals from Raw and SmackDown. So it really doesn't matter. It's unfortunate for us as fans, but at the same time, for them as a company, they're receiving more. I mean, their stock was almost $60. Are you kidding me? I mean, rocket heights. I was just reading an article from Bloomberg talking about another a major entity was considering grabbing, a cut of of WWE because their market value is so high. I mean, it's almost $60 at this point, and it's like it doesn't have anything to do with it. It has almost nothing. It has just about nothing to do with good matches or good quality matches. Listen, you're bringing in 3 million people a week for Raw. You're bringing in 2.5 million people for SmackDown. I see the consistency in numbers, and Ronda Rousey is a great person to to use as a platform person, as a face. That's the reason why that's the reason why she was catapulted into the title scene. So there's so many factors that have nothing to do with wrestling with why WWE is so successful. So real quick, I'm a big fan of Ember Moon, so I'm glad she got a clean win on Bliss. She's one of my favorites right now. B Team is just going to be it's just a phase to me. I mean, it's funny what they're doing, but it's just a phase. Like I said, I like the contract signing at the end of it. Chad Gable's starting to be a jobber, unfortunately. Natalia's still talking about how Ronda Rousey's her training partner. So we'll see about that. As a turn's coming. Bobby Roode's losing consecutively. I wonder if a turn's coming for him. Strowman and Balor was unmatched, but Balor was able to make it seem okay. Yeah, I agree, Dustin. I can see American Alpha coming back too. And then real quick, SmackDown, the New Day segment was hilarious. I can see Big E being there. There's some talks that Big E actually not only may be the person, but he actually may win the briefcase. That would be fantastic to me because I've been a huge Big E fan for quite some time, especially the New Day and Big E. Lana got the biggest pop of the night. That was very interesting. Almost great worker. We'll see how that works. Then AJ and Nakamura. That was good segment. Good segment. Nakamura's killing as a heel.
You gotta love the weirdness from Nakamura. The body movement.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah. He's yeah. Yeah.
With him being a heel and I speaking no English.
Yeah. He's killing it. He's killing as a heel. Someone said his promo's getting better. Yeah, I agree. As a heel, Mo said I wanted the pillow fight match. That's hilarious. Happy that Gallows and Anderson won. That'll be interesting. Happy that Naomi won. I was kind of feeling that they may have Cyan Deville won, but I'm glad Naomi won. I hope she wins it all. To be honest with you, her and Ember Moon. And then Daniel Bryan versus Jeff Hardy was a great match. All right, we got like 5 minutes, so we got to zoom through the flavor of the week. So without further ado, let's get this going.
It is now time for the flavor of the week.
Okay, so real quick, what's your 5? Let's do a trivia question real quick. Who were the members of the WWE Tag Team, the Dream Team? That is the question that is on deck right now. Who were the members of the WWE Tag Team, the Dream Team? All right. Evan, who's your 5 real quick?
Even though I do love it. My five, honorable mention is Shibata. 5 is
Oh, that's a good one.
Tanahashi, which I didn't realize it was T Tanahashi. I forgot. 4 El Desperado. 3 Sonata. 2 Will Ospreay. And of course 1. I mean, everyone has to say Okada.
All right, so Brutus Beefcake and Greg Valentine was the correct answer. Great job. All right, so if y'all want to bring y'all's 5 back, as far as the 5 people that you recruit from New Japan, I'll say them. I'll say them, and I'll say mine here. Shibata, that would have been a great one for me, but he's pretty much he's done with wrestling, unfortunately. So here's my 5. Number 5 is Will Ospreay. Number 4 is Kushida. Big fan of Kushida. My number 3 is Hiroshi Tanahashi. My number 2 is Kenny Omega. And my number 1 is Kazuchika Okada. Big fan of Kazuchika Okada. He is in my top 5. He's been in my top 5 for quite some time. He is absolutely fantastic. It's interesting. I think it was Scott D'Amore that he was around Okada somewhere. I forgot where it was, but he went up to him and apologized to him because they did such a terrible job with Kazuchika Okada when he was in TNA. And just look at him now. I mean, he's had the title for approaching 2 years. How long is Okada? I think he's been a champ for going on 2 years now. He broke the record of title defenses. He beat the Tanahashis. And so, like, man, he is killing it. He's absolutely killing it. He's incredible, man. I'm a huge fan of Okada and love watching him in the ring. All right, so Ryan said Cody, Young Bucks, Omega, and Naito. If not Cody, then Will Ospreay. It's great choices there. All right, so let's go to the history here. So he won the championship, I think, at Dominion, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. He beats Naito June 19th, 2016. It was his 4th reign. He's had the title for 703 plus days. So he beat Naito in Dominion. And he's had the title ever since. That is just wow. 703 days. It'll be 2 years at this Dominion pay-per-view. They'll probably take it off of him at Dominion, but he can have the title for another. He can have a San Martino run for me if I wouldn't care. I'm a big fan of Kazuchika Okada. Ladies and gentlemen, all right. So we're wrapping up episode 321 here. Let's give one more trivia question before we get off the air. How about that? Who was the first Divas champion and what year did she win it? How about that to close the show? Who was the first Divas champion and what year did she win it? Someone saying Natalia. Nope. She was not the first Divas champion. She won it like 2 years. There you go. Michelle McCool. Michelle McCool. She's someone's just saying things now. Just saying people now. Michelle McCool. So what year before we get off air? All right, ladies and gentlemen, 321 episodes in the books. It has been fantastic as always. Thank you to my good buddy Lance Archer, Lance Hoyt, 2008. Michelle McCool, 2008. Great job. Thank you to Evan Tech Proud again, as always. 321 episodes in the books. Thank you to all the fantastic interaction within the YouTube Live Wrestling Inc. So tune in, follow me at Crave Wrestling, follow Evan at Evan Tech Prout, Tech _ UTMR, follow me at Chris Prolific, follow the Pancakes and Powerslams show at Crave Wrestling. As always, thank you so much for all the people who are saying it's been a good show. You know, here's the thing. Every single time, every single 321 episodes over 6 years, I always aim to have this show be a good show. And of course, you know why I want this to have a good show. You know why I want this to be a good show. You know why. Because I do it for you. God bless you all. Have a great night, and and you all have a good night. Enjoy your week of wrestling. God bless. Bye-bye, everyone.